Young and free, naturally, the way it's got to be.
Hi there. Oh, there we go. Okay. We're on. We for some reason, everything disconnected from the Facebook pages this morning. I've got to check and make sure we're on all of them. I think we are, though. And YouTube and legacy1160.com will be there shortly. So stick around. We're up. We're on. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Baby, baby, falling in love. I'm falling in love again.
He's not the best looking, best dressed, or most charming person you'll ever meet, but he is the friendliest man in America. The one and only John James on Legacy 1160 WSKW.
Hey, how are you? Good morning. Welcome to the show. We're all good. Everything is beautiful in its own way. I wasn't here yesterday. It's weird. I'm just going through all the broadcasts. It says yesterday, Mike on YouTube. It says Mike's broadcast was blocked, and I think that is because what happened is the stream didn't get turned off at 9 o'clock, and so he aired a bunch of music for about 15 minutes, and I think they blocked the whole thing. It says blocked here, but everything else is just partially muted or okay. Anyway, we're on all the Facebook pages right now. Welcome to, of course, Legacy 1160, our Facebook page. American Women Who Bear Arms. Right America Media is here with us. We are on YouTube. We are soon going to be over on legacy1160.com with a video. We're streaming there all the time, so you can always go over there and listen to the audio. It doesn't matter, 24/7. We're always there. And it's legacy1160.com. The audio stream, by the way, is brought to you by Harry J. Smith Company on Sanger Avenue in Waterville. And the video stream on all the platforms is brought to you by Moody's Collision Center with locations throughout the great state of Maine. So visit our friends. They both take care of cars. Harry J. Smith takes care of the mechanical, and of course, Sean Moody and his staff take care of the body work. 922 on Legacy 1160 WSKW. And we're also going to be streaming over on USA.life, too, if you're interested in that. Boy, we have a lot to get to today, including climate school. Oh, boy. I get a couple of comments. I posted that yesterday on my Facebook, and I get a couple of comments. One of them was very funny. And I thought my answer to it was very funny. I said, climate school, here's what it says. First commandment, and this is the first commandment. Look it up in your Bible if you got one handy. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. So why does the left worship at the false altar of man-made climate change? Are we really in peril? Climate school tomorrow on Freedom's Pep Rally, and I did that. And then I got this guy, Robert, commented, said, Holy Hibiscus 2.0, to think John James is smarter than Dr. Stephen Hawkins. Amazing. And to which I answered, your statement is incorrect. My name does not have an H in it. He put an H in it. So, yeah, the climate is always changing. I never said it wasn't. I never said the climate isn't changing. I didn't say there isn't climate change. I did specify, I used some specificity as some Nancy Pelosi would say, specificity, because everything is pronounced so well by Nancy Pelosi. I said man-made climate change, by the way. So we'll be doing that, but we've got a lot to get to before that. We're gonna try to probably dedicate a whole hour to climate school this morning, and I've got a lot of brilliant people who you're going to hear from regarding this hoax we call climate change, including but not limited to, this is a big old tease here, including but not limited to a climate change activist talks out about climate change alarmism. Yeah, it's a real thing. AOC and Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you know what they're blowing up your butt? Smoke. Did you realize that? You're getting smoke blown up your butt by these people? It's the truth. And we'll prove it later on. So stick around for that. Let's first take a look at today in history. This is the 26th of January, and here with history is the Associated Press. We'll be right back.
You'll have to find the answer to that riddle somewhere else.
January 26th, 1998. President Bill Clinton denies having an affair with former White House intern Monica Lewinsky.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false.
Yet months later, Clinton finally does acknowledge that he did have a relationship with Lewinsky. The House of Representatives impeaches Clinton for perjury and obstruction of justice over the scandal. But Clinton is acquitted by the Senate the following year, and he finishes the rest of his term in office. 1788. The first European settlers in Australia, the British expedition including hundreds of convicts, land in present-day Sydney. 1880. General Douglas MacArthur is born in Little Rock, Arkansas. MacArthur commanded U.S. forces in the Pacific during World War II and ran the post-war Allied occupation of Japan. He also led American troops under the UN banner during the early months of the Korean War. 1961. Wayne Gretzky, considered one of the greatest hockey players of all time, is born in Ontario, Canada. And 1988. Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical The Phantom of the Opera opens in New York. In 2006, it leaps past Cats, another Lloyd Webber musical, to become the longest-running show in Broadway history. Today in history, January 26th, Mike Gracia, The Associated Press.
All right, here we go. Let's get right into it. Good morning to Eleni in Florida. Got them apple bottom jeans. Okay, sorry. Hello to Beverly. Hi from Mount Hood, Oregon. Welcome, Beverly. Good morning to Salvatore from, I believe, Reedfield, Maine, if I am not mistaken, and all else who have joined us this morning. Oh man, my glasses are dirty. Let me first brag a little bit about my new grandchild. Just because people look at me and they say, John, you aren't old enough to be a grandfather. To which I say, well, no, I'm not. I started a family when I was 8 years old. Not many people know that about me. So we had 4 grandkids. We had 4 grandkids before this one, and they're all boys. And we thought, wow, there's a lot of testosterone in this family. My son had 3 boys, and my daughter had a boy. And then we find out, well, we're having a little girl. So her name is Maisie, Maisey. And her middle name is Evangeline, which was my beloved mom's first name. Evangeline. They called her Vanjie. Everybody knew her as Vanjie. And gosh, I what a great tribute. That was just, that brought me to tears when I heard what her middle name was going to be, Maisie Evangeline Gallagher. So that was nice. And we went up on Sunday, and I thought, geez, I've got a lot of stuff I want to do for the show. And this is the thing about talk radio. You don't come in here half cocked and half prepared and do a show. You can't do it. So I thought, well, I best probably take the day off. So I texted in, said I can't really do the show tomorrow because I get a new granddaughter. I spent the whole day with her. We spent all day with her, and then we went out to dinner in Skowhegan down to the Old Mill Pub, which was nice. And we went back and spent some more time with them, and it was just a nice day. And so I had no time to do show prep. Conversely, yesterday, all day was voiceover work, because I have a voiceover business, and show prep. And oh boy, I put together this climate school for you that I think you're going to like. That'll be coming up a little bit later on. But welcome one, welcome all. Feel free to comment. It looks like I'm getting all the comments from all the pages here this morning too, so that's a plus. We've got 928 on Legacy 1160, and as expected, we had a lot of show prep. There was a lot of stuff. I call it show prep. There was a lot of stuff to talk about when Donald Trump was president, because they were always pushing against him and doing things to him and lying about him. But it actually pales in comparison to what we've got with Joe Biden. Now, one of the things Joe Biden has done, one of the first things he's done, one of the many first things he's done, by the way, did you know he has signed more executive orders already than anybody in history, any president in history in this short time? Thank you, Derica. She is beautiful. Oh, I've got a picture of her, and I'm there with my grandson, Max, my daughter's other child, who is 2. He's 2. And he's very smart, by the way. And little Maisie, who's not talking yet, but he was reading a book to her on my lap. And I was just sitting there. What can I say? My heart was full. It was just, I'm sorry, this pales in comparison to that, really. But this is good. I'm glad I'm back. So Joe Biden, on his first day, this goes back, almost 5 days, doesn't it? Wow. On his first day, he shut down Donald Trump's 1776 commission that championed patriot education. God forbid we learn the truth about the country. God forbid we do that in school. So he scrapped that. Ended it Wednesday with an executive order that also overturned a final report released this week by that group. Now, let me tell you what it was. It was established in 2020, September last year, after the publication of the New York Times 1619 Project, which the Democrats, by the way, adhere to. So the start of America wasn't in, according to them, according to the New York Times, which now, because all leftists follow one another, you've got to understand, they all are brown-nosing each other. It's like a continual sniffing, like a dog. It's like a dog going around sniffing each other's, I'm sorry for the imagery there, but they sniff each other's butts, and they echo. It's a big echo chamber, all of them. MSNBC, CNN, and they all echo the New York Times. New York Times echoes what the Democrats say. The Democrats take whatever the mainstream media, including the New York Times and the Washington Post and all of the news channel, whatever they say, they're just all back and forth. So they're all in agreement. They're all on the same page. Most of it lies, most of it untruths or half-truths, but they're all on the same page. So now they are teaching, thanks to the New York Times, because New York Times they are the god of all education, apparently. And they are one of the lighthouses of the Democratic Party. They're lighthouses. You can see the lighthouses who the Democrats go to. Fox News is not a lighthouse. In fact, if they were a lighthouse, they are trying to douse that lighthouse by law. They are trying to get Fox News and others like it, programs like this and Rush Limbaugh and Fox News and OAN and Newsmax, trying to get us shut down. They're trying to get us shut down for hate speech, because apparently speech is no longer free in this country unless you echo the immoral, the godless left. If you don't believe in a deity, if you do believe in communism and socialism and free stuffism and take care of you from cradle to gravism from the government, if you do believe in that, then you're all good. You can talk to your heart's content. But the minute you say something like voter fraud, hydroxychloroquine, Donald Trump is a good president, then your free speech comes to an end. You hit the proverbial leftist wall they want to install. That's the only wall they want, by the way. They don't want a wall keeping dangerous people out of our country, dangerous illegal aliens out of our country. They want a wall blocking us from saying anything they disagree with. There's your wall. That's the only wall they condone. So this Patriot Education Commission was established last year after the 1619 Project was published by the New York Times, which attempted to reframe U.S. history. They tried to, and they did. They actually did, because the Democrats are on board with this. And what the Democrats say is gospel in academia. The colleges follow it. The secondary schools follow it. Now with a Democratic administration, a Democratic Congress, now they're going to be forced to follow it. Do you remember what for lack of a better word, abortion, that what was it? The Common Core. Do you remember what a complete disaster that was under Clinton? Do you remember that? Do you remember you couldn't even understand it because it was just stupid and nonsensical? Well, here you go. Here it is again. It's coming back in the form of false history now. So the New York Times has reframed history single-handedly on the pages of their deplorable, godless publication. And what they're doing is reframing it, making the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans more central to the national narrative. So they've got a racist reason for doing this. So rather than understanding the history of the free United States after we won the Civil War, after we won the revolution against the British, instead of starting there with our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence and our founding documents, they want to go back to 1619 and build back better. You see, this is Joe Biden's thing, build back better. The project's content also became part of some U.S. high school and college curriculums. I told you, that's what's going to happen. Biden's order said the 1776 Commission's 45-page report released Tuesday sought to erase America's history of racial injustice. Think about that. Think about this mook, this bonehead. This is the most dangerous administration we have ever seen. Tell me he's not a radical leftist or being driven by the radical leftists. He is. He is complete. Oh, he's a moderate. Bull. No, he's not. He's a communist. He's being driven by the communists in. You wait till we get to some of this stuff you're going to hear. I've got some of if you missed Tucker's Open last night, it is sobering, scary, sobering, and true, because I have been reading up on all this stuff, and he lays it out perfectly. Now, whether or not I'm going to air the whole 20 minutes of it, I don't know. It was a 20-minute open. It was all good. It was all good. It features other voices in there, other voices that should never even be allowed on public airwaves, making false statements because they have accused Donald Trump of lying and colluding and what was the word? I can't remember what word Tucker uses, but Adam Schiff features prominently in this. Oh, yeah, conspiracy theories, spreading conspiracy. That's why they want to shut down Fox. That's why they want to shut down OAN and Newsmax. That's why they want to shut down Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck and Mike and me. That's why they want to shut us down, because conspiracy theories. Yet Adam Schiff was on for 3 to 4 years on MSNBC and CNN almost daily with no proof, no public whistleblower, no nothing, spouting conspiracy theories, which turned out to be just that. All lies, all conspiracy theories, and they loved and celebrated him in the Democratic Party. But now we are not allowed the same free speech. No. Scary, you bet your butt it is. You'd better be paying attention, because this is not going to get better. I hate to say that. I'm not negative. I believe in our country. I believe in the rule of law, but we've got lawless people now, lawless people in charge of the police station. If you want to frame it that way, there's an analogy for you. You have the thieves, the crooks, the rebels, the rebels is a bad word. You've got the criminals in charge of the police station. The 1776 Project, Matt Spalding, who was the commission's executive director, said members aim to put together a report to address the core question that was asked of the commission, which is to come give an explanation of America's core principles and how they have shaped our history. That is called learning about America's evolution, including slavery and the journey to American greatness, and we're still improving. But Joe Biden nixed it with a stroke of a pen. Boom, it's gone. Because we've got to go back to 1619 when the country was really founded. And that's when it really started. And we've got to include slavery. And yet, Mr. Unity wants to get rid of all the divisiveness. He wants to get rid of all the racism. And he goes out there and he does stuff like this. Now, Matt Spalding also told Just the News' John Solomon that the panel looked at the principles of 1776, the ideas of the Founding Fathers, and those of Abraham Lincoln, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., and Frederick Douglass to try to understand those principles as they are as life principles and as a claim of truth that all men are created equal, as opposed to looking at groups or others by various characteristics, as the left does. Other than equal status as human beings, which is really the root of many of our problems. And who exacerbates that? Who doesn't look at us all as human beings? Who wants to? Well, I'll tell you who. You do. I do. We do. They don't. Because without the racial division, they've got no power. They have got to cause anger, hate, fear, looting, rioting, killing, burning. They've got to have all that, or they've got nothing. They have to create problems so they can then try to fix them. You need us to fix them. Understand? This is how their sick, warped, twisted minds work. And the leftists, your friends who are leftists who go on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and they spout off, it's not, they're the tools. They are the ignorant tools of the left. They don't know what they're saying. They're just echoing. It's easy to echo. You don't need a brain to echo. All you need is the ability to spell words correctly, and even then you've got spell check. So it's not a problem for the mooks to go ahead and advance the narrative, which is totally un-American, totally racist, and yet they will call you racist and xenophobic all day long. 9:41 right now, and I do believe we've got to take a break, so we will do that, and believe me, we've got a lot more to come. We're only starting the ball rolling here. There's plenty more ahead. I'm John James. This is Freedom's Pep Rally.
Legacy 1160, WSKW.
I'm a fisherman, and I am Sam.
The Sportsman's Alliance of Maine is a champion of our rights to fully enjoy Maine as we like. Support the preservation of our proud outdoor heritage by becoming a member at sportsmansallianceofmaine.org today.
At most dealerships, used vehicles are in short supply, and the vehicles that they do have are priced as though they're made of solid gold. At Darling's in Augusta and Brunswick, we have a great selection of quality used vehicles to choose from at prices to fit almost any budget. In fact, we have a large selection of inspected vehicles that are priced below $12,000. Put your tax return to good use and drive away in a reliable vehicle with low monthly payments. Darling's team of professionals take pride in finding the right vehicle for you, regardless of your credit history or prior financial concerns. We take the time to listen to your needs, and we won't rest until you find exactly what you're looking for. Choose from over 500 vehicles in stock right now at Darling's. Visit us online at darlings.com or stop by to see us today in Augusta or at our newest location in Brunswick. You'll do better at Darlings.
Town Line Antiques wants to know, what are you shopping for today? Searching for furniture to add to your home? Town Line Antiques has beautiful pieces of furniture.
Hey, how are you? This is a video only. We're talking on video only. Whoops. No, we're not. We're on the air. Hold on. Never mind.
Work, glassware, and hundreds more items around every corner. Do you love collecting books, comics, coins, sports memorabilia, watches, or classic electronics? Town Line Antiques has cool, rare, and one-of-a-kind items to add to your collection that you won't find anywhere else. And if you love searching through treasures of the past, here's more great news. Town Line Antiques has expanded with extra booth space. Now there are even more quality antiques to browse every time you visit. Plus, there are a limited number of dealer spaces now available. If you'd like to learn more about selling at Town Line Antiques, just stop in. Town Line Antiques, open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 5. Route 201, right on the Winslow-Vassalboro Town Line.
What's important here at Moody's is we have a lot of opportunity for upward mobility.
Moody's definitely helped me through. They sent me to school. I got my degree in business. I had the demeanor and I had the willpower and the want.
Our trade is constantly changing and there's always new challenges that arise.
I definitely feel like an owner. It's very exciting.
When you like what you do, you like your job, you like the people you work with, what else could you ask for?
Bring your skills to Moody's and build a long-term future with us.
I'm CBS 13 meteorologist Lexi O'Connor. Sunny to start this morning with increasing clouds through this afternoon. Highs will be in the low to mid-30s. Cloudy with periods of light snow tonight through Wednesday. Only light accumulations are expected, but we could have some slick spots for the Wednesday morning commute. Mostly cloudy, chance for some lingering showers Thursday. Highs in the 30s through Thursday, but then dropping to the teens and low 20s for Friday.
Your pep rally for freedom is back. Powered by the Gun Shop in Augusta on Coney Circle. Now, here's John James.
Hey. Hi there. Well, welcome back. I realized I started talking to people on video, and I realized the way we've got the studio wired now to make everything sound much better is in such a way that when I do that, I'm not only going on the video, I'm going on the radio too. So I got to be careful about that. So I can't talk to you on the video specifically now. I don't know if I'll be able to in the future or not, but we've got the radio station sounding the way we want it to. So we're just going to let sleeping dogs lie, as it were, and you'll just have to suffice to read my lips or wave back if I wave it. I give you a countdown how much time before we're back, generally speaking. We aren't going to get to the Tucker Carlson piece this hour because we don't have enough time if we're going to play the whole thing, but it certainly is worth hearing if you missed it last night. Sarah Sanders made an announcement. Have you heard about this? Did you see her over the weekend? It's awesome. The video is awesome. It recalls a great story of a visit to the troops before she makes a big announcement. And I grabbed some of the audio from the video, and here it is. Give this a listen.
In the pitch black of night, with no lights on the plane or runway, Air Force One touched down in war-torn Iraq. Nearby, hundreds of troops had gathered at a remote military base in the desert to celebrate Christmas. They expected to be joined by senior military leadership, but instead got their commander-in-chief. The room erupted. A young soldier yelled from the back of the room, "Mr. President, I re-enlisted in the Army because of you." And the president replied, "And son, I'm here because of you." That soldier then came over to me and said, "Thank you, Sarah. I love the way you handle yourself. You have a tough job." I politely corrected him and told him thanks. But I take questions. You take bombs and bullets. That's a tough job. The soldier silently reached up and tore the Brave Rifles patch from his arm and handed it to me and said, "We're in this together." Overwhelmed with emotion and speechless, I just hugged him with tears in my eyes and a grateful heart for our heroes who keep us free. America is great because we are free. But today, our freedom and the rule of law are under attack. I was the first White House press secretary to require Secret Service protection because of a credible, violent threat against me. We've seen violence in our streets, at a congressional baseball practice, and at our Capitol. This is not who we are as Americans. To remain free, we must have law and order and resolve our differences peacefully. The radical left's solution is to impose government control and censorship from the top down. But their socialism and cancel culture will not heal America. It will only further divide and destroy us. Everything we love about America is at stake. And with the radical left now in control of Washington, your governor is your last line of defense. In fact, your governor must be on the front line. So today, I announce my candidacy for governor of Arkansas and ask for your prayers and your support. As governor, I will defend your right to be free of socialism and tyranny, your Second Amendment right to keep your family safe, and your freedom of speech and religious liberty. Our state needs a leader with the courage to do what's right.
How about that? Sarah Huckabee Sanders running for governor of Arkansas. Now, her dad, Mike, is a former Arkansas governor. What a great story that would make, huh? Everyone in the country has seen how strong and tough she is, and she's really shown leadership despite death threats on a national stage. We could certainly use more leaders like Sarah. Maine could use a leader like Sarah, actually, but we don't have one. And when she said she was getting credible death threats, do you remember, I don't know that as this was the specific cause of it, but do you remember, as a result, she got kicked out of a restaurant. She got pushed and literally physically pushed out of a restaurant after deplorable, horrible, racist Maxine Waters of California told people to get up in the face. You see people from that I don't know if it was the administration or what the word she used is, but you get up in their faces. You tell them if it's a restaurant, a gas station, anywhere, you tell them they aren't welcome here. You don't want them here. Well, there you go. Okay, so anybody who has a differing opinion from a Maxine Waters is not welcome in restaurants and at gas stations or anywhere. And so subsequently, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was forced out of a restaurant. Thank you, Maxine, you mook, you leftist, communist, racist bag of wind, you. Beverly is right. Yeah, day one, he killed thousands of jobs. With the he took away the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline and day one. It's only the start. I mean, this is only the beginning of what we are going to see here, unfortunately. And Biden, well, you know, Biden is now making travel bans, COVID-19 travel bans. Do you remember when Donald Trump banned people from China? Do you remember what he was called? He was called xenophobic by Joe Biden. Xenophobic for banning travel from China where the virus originated. He was called xenophobic. So thank goodness Peter Doocy of Fox News is now part of the press corps. As Joe Biden moves to impose new coronavirus-related travel restrictions, some are seeing the hypocrisy because he called Donald Trump xenophobic when he banned travel from China. Peter Doocy asked Biden press secretary Jen Psaki about the hypocrisy, and to her credit, she's quick on her feet, and she makes up a really smooth lie, and she dodges the actual question. Listen to this.
And just one more about the announcement you made off the top about the travel restrictions. Mm-hmm. When President Trump was imposing travel restrictions in March, specifically on China, then candidate Biden called it xenophobic and fear-mongering. So now President Biden is putting travel restrictions on people coming in from other countries. What word do we use to describe that?
Well, I don't think that's quite a fair articulation. The president has been clear that he felt the Muslim ban was xenophobic. He overturned the Muslim ban.
He called the China ban
also,
xenophobic.
Though, has supported, and he himself, even before, or we did, I should say, even before he was inaugurated, steps, travel restrictions in order to keep the American people safe, to ensure that we are getting the pandemic under control. That's been part of his policy. But he was critical of the former president for having a policy that was not more comprehensive than travel restrictions.
Wasn't more comprehensive. He shut down. He allowed America to be shut down. That's pretty friggin' comprehensive, you moron. The Muslim ban. Okay. All right. First of all, Peter Doocy was not asking about the Muslim ban. which, by the way, made sense because that's where most of the terror in this country has come from for a lot of years. The terror attacks have come from Muslims. They need to be vetted a little bit more carefully. I'm not saying all Muslims are bad. I'm not. I never have. I never will. But there are some who come into this country to do us harm. They should be vetted. But that also is xenophobic. They don't like that either. It's just like voter ID. They don't want to require voter ID because that's racist. Everything has a phobia or an ist attached to it. Where as far as the Democrats are concerned, unless they want to do it, and then everything is cool. It's open and above board. So now, okay. So she didn't answer the question. He was called xenophobic by Joe Biden for blocking travel from China, where the virus began in Wuhan. And I actually think members in the Washington establishment knew it was coming and were okay with it. That's what I think. I think the Washington establishment, maybe some senators and Congress people, regular representatives, maybe they knew it was coming and said, we'll just keep quiet about it till it gets here, and it's going to start killing people. We'll have to shut things down, but it'll make Trump look bad. That's what I think, and I've got good reason for believing that. Not only do we learn more and more every day about where this virus started, it seems pretty clear now that it began in the Wuhan lab. It seems pretty clear, and it also seems pretty clear that it was in this country in November. Did somebody in this country know about it in November, not say anything because they wanted it to take hold so it could make Trump look bad? I don't doubt that for a minute because everything was too convenient. Everything. We went from the Russia collusion hoax with Robert Mueller for 2 years, and it segued nicely right into the Ukraine quid pro quo. Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell involved in both of them, Jerry Nadler involved in you've got Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. They're all over this stuff. And as soon as the impeachment trial is wrapping up, as soon as Donald Trump is not convicted, guess what dovetails right into it? The coronavirus and the lockdowns. You think that is by coincidence? You think they are that smart that they would have allowed a little bit more time to pass before they let coronavirus out of the proverbial bag? No, the riots were going on too. Perfect storm. Everything has been a perfect storm for the Democrats. They have succeeded at nothing, but it's all been a perfect storm for them. And how do you We're back. Yeah, I got a weird message. It was an orange and black message on my screen here. Yeah, stay with us. Okay, we back. This will take a second. Boy, that really irritates me. That fries my patootie. I'm just waiting. There we go. I guess we're back. I have no idea though. Doesn't look like we are actually. So I don't know what is going on. Did they shut us down? All right, we may have to take a break here. We're going to have to shortly anyway because we have news coming up. No, it looks like we're back. Okay, it looks like we're back. That was the weirdest thing I've seen. There's always something weird going on. Okay, we've got a black screen on at least one of the pages, so I don't know what's up with that. We'll check it out, and we're going to be back right after the news. So stick around. Do not go anywhere. We'll see what is happening, and we'll try to fix it as best we can. I'm John James, and this is Freedom's Pep Rally.
From the Home Auto Group Studios, Farmington Ford and Franklin Chrysler in Farmington, this is WSKW, Skowhegan.
administration has been far more transparent about national strategy instead of trying to go state by state. The one article of impeachment against former President Trump is now in the hands of the Senate. One person killed in an Alabama tornado overnight. It's been 1 year since Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others were killed in that chopper crash.
California lawmakers Monday reintroduced a bill that would require terrain awareness and warning systems on choppers that carry 6 or more people.
ABC's Megan Tavrizian. This is ABC News. British officials expected to announce new coronavirus quarantine rules as soon as today. Anyone flying into Great Britain will have to spend 2 weeks at an airport hotel. Unemployment fraud costing California over $11 billion last year. And investigators now say billions more in unemployment claims are under investigation. Baseball's next class for the Hall of Fame due to be announced today. But ABC's Brian Clark says,
for the second time in 9 years, there's a good chance there will not be any new members inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Most accomplished players on the 2021 are Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. They have not been able to crack the required 75% of the vote, largely because of their links to alleged performance-enhancing drug use. Also close is pitcher Curt Schilling, one of the best postseason pitchers of his generation, but he's become divisive among voters because of his comments on everything from politics to social issues. Other Hall hopefuls include Todd Helton, Scott Rowland, and Billy Wagner.
Alex Prochet, ABC News.
At the Home Depot's Days of Doing Winter Bath event, it's never been easier to turn a small project into a big improvement. Start with a wide selection of stylish vanities from only $139. New low prices on faucets starting at only $59. Why not do something nice for your bathroom, your budget, and yourself? Come to the Winter Bath event, going on now at the Home Depot and homedepot.com/bath. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. Valid through February 28th while supplies last.
You decided to upgrade your outdoor deck. So you ordered the essentials: a power washer, a set of patio chairs, and a shiny new grill. And you use your Bank of America Cash Rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put towards your most essential deck addition, a bird feeder. Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2020 Bank of America Corporation.
It's time for a little fun, a few laughs, and a whole lot of truth.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris only represents terrorists and arsonists and people who murder retired cops in St. Louis. I know that the Democrats have turned into the Marxist Party. I know they hate America. They hate the Constitution. And if the Democrats get in charge, we will be a suburb of Venezuela. And I hope everybody out there knows that we, the people, have an absolute moral obligation to vote God, family, country, freedom, Constitution. And if you don't vote those basic principles, the communists and the Marxists would like to thank you.
The John James Show is on Legacy 1160 WSKW.
Good morning. Oh, we're back. Yeah. Good morning to Sandra in Southern California. Thanks for being in there this morning. Hello to, looks like Mikkel's in there from over in Moscow. Max is here from Eastern Maine. I'm missing a lot of the comments now because I had to restart I don't know what happened. But trust me, whenever the video freezes or disappears or something like that, we will be back. If we haven't been blocked, we will be back. It usually is pretty simple to fix. I figured it would be, but I wasn't sure. I saw a message I'd never seen before come up on the monitor, so apparently we're back up and running here, so that's good news. And Mike will be happy that Facebook channels are all back up and running tomorrow. Sandra, by the way, from SoCal, listening over on Right America Media, certainly want to welcome them into the show. Now, one of the things I told you we'd have this morning, besides Climate School, which is going to be coming up next hour, is this Tucker Carlson piece, which I want you to listen to because it is so very good. If you missed it last night, you've got to hear it. You've got to hear it. It lays out exactly where we are in this short of time. I mean, it takes everything that has happened since Inauguration Day until last night when Tucker did his thing And it lays it out. It tells you what this means. And it's not unlike things we've been telling you all along. But he synopsizes it. He sort of capsulates it all in a 20-minute period. And it's very good. So we'll listen to it. Let me preface it by saying the first bill of 2021 introduced by House Democrats would codify and expand many of the measures blamed for election fraud in 2020. H.R. 1. Heard about this? H.R. 1. Tucker's going to talk about it. H.R. 1, the For the People Act, which it isn't, among other things, would establish nationwide mail-in voting, eliminate restrictions on ballot harvesting, and ban voter ID. This is according to Joe Hoft of the Gateway Pundit and Populist Press. How dangerously close are we to becoming a one-party, totalitarian, socialist, Marxist government? Closer than you know, or maybe you do know. You probably do know. You're like me, you do know, and you feel helpless, but you need to know what's going on so you aren't blindsided. Oh, do we have? We do. All right. Hi, good morning. You're on with John. Who am I talking with? Are you there? Yeah, I missed a call. I'm sorry about that. I didn't see that. So we'll get to calls if anybody wants to call in after we do this piece right here. Tucker Carlson covers H.R. 1 and a lot more. This is last night. Now, listen closely. The leftist media and the radical left wants to shut down our voices. They literally do. They want to make only their speech free. They want to undo the Constitution. In fact, H.R. 1 is totally unconstitutional. This is undoing the Constitution by little acts of making law. Unconstitutional law. Can they do it? Well, they've done it. They've done it before. They did it all through the election. They usurped the legislatures. And they went right ahead by themselves, the executive and the secretaries of state, and they made edicts allowing widespread mail-in voting, no voter ID. They're doing all this without constitutional authority. And they did it. They did it. Are any heads rolling? Haven't heard of any. The only heads that roll are conservatives who get in the way. And they may roll literally, if you know what I mean. So Tucker Carlson addresses all of this. The leftist media and the radical left wants to shut down our voices. Anybody with a differing view, Tucker Carlson last night on Fox News. This is quite awesome. And again, it's about 20 minutes, but it's 20 minutes of time that's going to be well spent.
Even his allies concede that Joe Biden isn't as quick as he used to be. It now takes him an hour and a half to watch 60 Minutes. But to be fair, Biden's administration may be the fastest in history. We are less than a week in, and the White House has already ended immigration enforcement, sent American troops into armed conflict, crippled the last remaining independent sector of our economy, and officially, for the first time in human history, denied the biological reality of sex differences. That all happened in 3.5 business days. Amazing. Google is getting its money's worth. Now, Congress is about to get involved in changing this country. Democrats control the entire legislative branch of government, so this should be a swift process, too. Their priority is House Resolution Number 1. It's called that because it is the first bill in the legislative pipeline. So what exactly is in that bill? It's possible that CNN hasn't brought you all the details yet. They're too busy trying to save the country from forbidden ideas in internet chat rooms. They're on the case there. As for the actual legislation pending before Congress, we'll let Nancy Pelosi herself explain what's in it. Here's what she said about H.R. 1 back in October.
We have plenty of work to do in the Joe Biden administration. We're going to build the infrastructure of America in a green way. We're going to make sure health care is available to all Americans, lower the cost of prescription drugs. We're going to have H.R. 1 right off the bat be about cleaner government so that we can reduce the role of big, dark, special interest money.
H.R. 1 is all about that big, dark, special interest money. Ooh, scary. But you have to wonder why Nancy Pelosi is still using the term dark as a euphemism for bad. But whatever, it's Nancy Pelosi, so we can be sure it's not racism. Nancy Pelosi is a good person, unlike you. The real question is how the party of ruthless corporate monopolies gets away with fake populist talking points like that. We need cleaner government, shriek the puppets of Silicon Valley. The answer, of course, is they get away with it because no one stops them. This is the quote, "For the People Act" we're talking about here. It's for the people, so shut up. What exactly does the Democratic Party intend to do for the people? Well, if you guessed enshrine their own rule by force forever, you win today's Daily Double. I'll take authoritarian political movements for 1,000, Alex. Good job. The For the People Act is the foundation of the Democratic Party's strategy to control the federal government well into your grandchildren's middle age. Take a look at it. Like most revolutionary documents, it's not a very exciting read. Nothing in it sounds especially radical at first until you think about it. The bill begins by declaring that, contrary to Article 1 of the United States Constitution, Congress has, quote, the ultimate supervisory power over federal elections. That's a big change. Under our current law, states get to decide how much fraud they will tolerate. Florida requires you to show photo identification in order to vote. California just wants you to vote Democrat. If H.R. 1 passes, all 50 states will be California. The entire country will have ballot harvesting and mail-in voting. Think about that. On January 6th, we had a riot at the U.S. Capitol. Why did that happen? It happened because millions of American voters were convinced that the last election was not fair. Where did they get that idea? Well, it wasn't simply because the last president told them so. You're hearing that now as if they're animals who take commands and do what they're told, but they're not animals. They're people. They're American citizens who can see what's happening and come to their own conclusions about it. They saw the radical increase in mail-in voting, millions did, and it corroded their faith and the public's faith in our systems of election. They were enraged by that, and some of them exploded. According to Democrats, the lesson of that terrible day is that we need more of the corrupt policies that caused it in the first place. We need more mail-in voting. We need more ballot harvesting, more corruption. That'll unite the country. We're not overstating any of this. H.R. 1 would literally enshrine fraud. Here's a direct quote from that legislation. Quote, a state may not require an individual to provide any form of identification as a condition of obtaining an absentee ballot. Any form of identification, no identification whatsoever. Nor can signatures be validated. Here's another direct quote from H.R. 1. Quote, a state may not require notarization or witness signature or other formal authentication, other than a voter's word for it, as a condition of obtaining or casting an absentee ballot. Under H.R. 1, paid political operatives could freely go house to house, apartment to apartment, collecting unknown thousands of ballots, then dump them all at a ballot drop box. And no one would have any idea if those ballots had been tampered with at any point along the way, nor would there be any way to prove it if they had been tampered with. And by the way, H.R. 1 also makes it harder for election observers to file complaints about any of this because complaining is racist. A system like that is suicidal for a democracy. No other free country would tolerate it. France and Canada don't tolerate it. They have banned mail-in ballots. They don't want fraud. By the way, neither does Amazon.com. It's a real company. Jeff Bezos, who owns it, is strongly for mail-in voting when mail-in voting allows his parties to take control of everything. You're a bigot if you oppose that. But when it comes to union elections in his own company, elections that might require Jeff Bezos to pay his long-suffering workers decent wages and benefits, Jeff Bezos is totally opposed to it. Amazon is fighting mail-in balloting in its union election in Alabama right now. Amazon.com's position is that an election decided by mail-in ballots wouldn't be, and we're quoting, valid or fair. When it's their power at stake, Democrats have a totally different position. And that's true in California right now. You may have heard there is a recall effort underway in that state. Voters are trying to boot their comically incompetent governor, Gavin Newsom. More than 1 million people have signed on so far to that effort. But it's not so easy to get it done because Democrats are requiring in-person signatures for those petitions. Suddenly, they're very worried about voter fraud. You should know this is not hypocrisy. Republicans often call it hypocrisy, but it's not. It's far more profound than that. Democrats don't care about hypocrisy. They don't mind if they're caught breaking their own rules. They're not offended by double standards. They want power. This is a power grab. That's all it is. And you're complaining about it means nothing to them. If you needed more evidence of that, as if you needed more evidence, consider new legislation from Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy. She's a Democrat from Orlando. Murphy has proposed a bill that would ban anyone with the wrong opinions from having a significant job in the federal government. Believe forbidden things and you don't get a security clearance. You can't work here. Murphy's bill would require federal investigators to ask all applicants whether they had, quote, associated with or knowingly engaged in activities conducted by an organization or movement that spreads conspiracy theories and false information about the United States government, end quote. Wait a second. Conspiracy theories and false information about the United States government? Whoa, it sounds like these people could be in trouble.
You can see evidence in plain sight on the issue of collusion. So there's clear evidence on the issue of collusion, and this adds to that body of evidence. And there is significant evidence of collusion. There is ample evidence, and indeed there is, of collusion of people in the Trump campaign with the Russians. I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy. All of this is evidence of collusion. There is significant evidence, much of it in the public domain, on the issue of collusion.
Just kidding. The people who spent years peddling ludicrous conspiracy theories, disproven factually, theories that Vladimir Putin secretly controlled the federal government, those people will be fine, because at this point, that would include pretty much everyone currently in power. Yes, they were knee-deep in conspiracy theories that actually hurt our country in measurable ways, but this legislation isn't designed to punish them. Just the opposite. This legislation is designed to protect them from your criticism. Under Stephanie Murphy's bill, anyone who criticizes Stephanie Murphy could be punished. Oh, makes sense now? Now, you'd think all this might raise some eyebrows among traditional civil liberties people, civil liberties folks, as they call themselves. But come on now, it's 2021. The media love laws like this. Laws like this are aimed directly at the media's sworn arch enemies, people who went to state schools and other undesirables. Listen as the geniuses explain how the single biggest threat to this country isn't Chinese hegemony or even the coming hyperinflation, pretty much a certainty now, which was 100% caused by elite mismanagement of our economy. But no, let's not talk about that. The real threat is a forbidden idea. It's something called QAnon.
Next, what to do about QAnon and its droves of loyal followers. Is it too little, too late to bring our loved ones back to reality?
Many of those who believe the totally unfounded conspiracies and prophecies of QAnon expected January 20th to be Judgment Day.
As far-right figures and QAnon conspiracy theorists are joined by Trump supporters who believe the election was stolen.
QAnon is better viewed as an on-ramp to various different extremism circles.
How many people in the country have been marinated in these conspiracy theories, QAnon craziness, and it is frightening.
Ooh, Mr. Tom Friedman thinks this is all pretty frightening. And he's right, but not, as usual, for the reasons he thinks. We're watching a profound change taking place in American society, and it's happening very fast. The stakes could not be higher. There is a clear line between democracy and tyranny, between self-government and dictatorship. And here's what that line is. That line is your conscience. They cannot cross that. Government has every right to tell you what to do. Controlling the behavior of citizens is one of the basic prerogatives of any organized society. It's why we have it. Government can try to prevent you from committing murder or rape or from speeding or jaywalking. That's all allowed. It's legitimate. But no democratic government can ever tell you what to think. Your mind belongs to you. It is yours and yours alone. Once politicians attempt to control what you believe, they are no longer politicians. They are by definition dictators. And if they succeed in controlling what you believe, you are no longer a citizen. You are not a free man. You are a slave. So yes, Tom Friedman, this is frightening. It's everywhere all of a sudden. No one is pushing back. Instead, they have almost every one of them, join the mob of censors, hysterics, and Jacobin destroyers, all working on behalf of entrenched power to take total control of everything. Overstatement? No, it's not. Their new idea is that this channel shouldn't be allowed. No, they're not arguing that Fox News is inaccurate and dishonest and you shouldn't watch it. They're arguing that you shouldn't be able to watch Fox News because Fox News should be eliminated by force. A few days ago, a former New York Times columnist called Anand Giridharadas posted this question on Twitter, quote, should Fox News be allowed to exist? No, he quickly concluded, Fox News, quote, shouldn't be legal. No one online seemed especially surprised by this view. Among a certain group, it is a gathering consensus. CNN certainly agrees with it. CNN is our direct competitor, of course, so you might imagine they would recuse themselves from this conversation. Oh, but just the opposite. CNN is staring down the barrel of some pretty lean years ratings-wise, now that their reason for existing has departed from Mar-a-Lago. They would love one less news channel on the dial. So over the weekend, the Dwarf King summoned a pair of his most pliable minions up from the cellar and turned them loose to explain that actually allowing people to watch what they want to watch on TV is a massive threat to democracy.
President Biden seems to understand that right-wing radicalization is a real problem. His team seems to recognize how Fox and Facebook and QAnon fantasies and all of that has caused the separate realities in the United States.
And it remains a threat to our democracy. It is the reason why there were hundreds of Trump supporters storming the Capitol on January 6th. And until that poison, that toxin is drained from the national political discourse in this country, Brian, I do think that these forces represent a potential existential threat to this country.
No, it's existential. It's existential. Existential. Now, you should know that no one on CNN has ever been asked to spell or define the word existential. The day that happens is the day they stop using the word. Instead, they called in reinforcements from Jeff Bezos, who you should also know has expressed interest in buying CNN, because, of course, Bezos' employee, Margaret Sullivan at the Washington Post, wrote an entire column about how the continued existence of a single news channel that at times disagrees with all the other news channels is, you guessed it, a threat to democracy. That's too much choice. That's not democratic. Quote, corporations that advertise on Fox News should walk away, Sullivan wrote, and citizens who care about the truth should demand that they do so. Again, Margaret Sullivan didn't ask people to stop watching Fox News. She asked for us to be unemployed. Her colleague Max Boot agreed with that. Max Boot also labors for Jeff Bezos at the Washington Post. Noticing a theme here? When you work for the world's richest man, people tend to listen to you. When you call for government officials to crush dissent, that's not a small thing.
And there's also, I think, the possibility of reviving the fairness doctrine, which the FCC enforced until 1987, and which mandated some minimal standards of factuality and balance on the part of TV stations. And since that's disappeared, it's just been a complete free-for-all with all sorts of lunacy being fed directly into the right-wing ecosystem.
Max Boot, ladies and gentlemen, on the fairness doctrine. The fairness doctrine is pretty amusing. Ignore the fact that the fairness doctrine does not even apply to cable news, since the U.S. government doesn't own the cable lines. What you should consider is the idea that Max Boot just explained, that it's, quote, unfair for one news outlet to disagree with every other news outlet in the country. So diversity of opinion is unfair. Sameness is fair. That's why it should be mandatory. It's inclusive. Hilarious. In addition to everything else, you may have figured this out already, these people are stupid. Of course they're stupid. That's why our country's in trouble, because the people who run our country can't find their butts with both hands.
Right.
Max Boot has no choice but to work at the Washington Post. No self-respecting landscaping company would have Max Boot. But that doesn't mean Max Boot won't win. It's a mistake to imagine that simply because an idea is wrong or stupid or immoral that it cannot prevail, at least for a while. Of course it can prevail. History is filled with examples of this. New Coke was a real beverage. The French Revolution actually happened. So we should be worried when large numbers of people start saying irrational things, and they definitely are saying them. Joe Scarborough has a morning show over on MSNBC. Joe Scarborough isn't stupid, hardly. Look up animal cunning in the dictionary and you will find Joe Scarborough's picture. What Joe Scarborough is a herd animal. He's flexible. If all the kids are doing it, he wants a seat on the bus. He wants in. Watch Joe Scarborough explain that the people who appear on Fox News need to be forced to shut up immediately.
Fox News had someone I know, a former leader of the Republican Party, saying that Democrats wanted, and I'm using his words here, Democrats wanted to, quote, exterminate.
They would like to.
Exterminate all Republicans. Let me say that again.
They would like to.
For Fox News sponsors to let you know, for Fox News sponsors to let you know what's happening now on Fox News. That they're getting people who are Fox News contributors who are saying that Democrats, Joe Biden and Democrats, want to, quote, exterminate all Republicans.
They do.
Ooh, I'm saying this for Fox News sponsors. So how honest do you want to be here? The man you just saw has been accused in public by the president of the United States of murdering a young woman. Not many cable news hosts can say that.
Yes, he has.
Now, we're not taking a position on Joe Scarborough's guilt or innocence in that case. We're not a law enforcement agency. It's not our place to do that. But one thing we did not do and would never do is go on TV to demand that because Joe Scarborough was accused of violence by a politician, American companies should not be allowed to sell their products to his viewers. Doing that never even occurred to us, not for a second. We're not fascists, or for that matter, middle-aged performers running away from their own consciences. We're Americans. We think people we disagree with should still be allowed to talk in public. The tech monopolies have never believed that. They're not American companies. They're global conglomerates that don't answer to voters. They're more powerful than our government at this point, you should know. Last week on CNN, the former chief security officer at Facebook, how's that title strike you? A man called Alex Stamos, said all of this out loud.
It's really hard because what's happening is people are able to seek out the information that makes them feel good. That is what's happening, is that people have so much choice now. They can choose what their news sources are. They can choose what influencers they want to follow. We have to turn down the capability of these conservative influencers to reach these huge audiences. There are people on YouTube, for example, that have a larger audience than daytime CNN, and they are extremely radical and pushing extremely radical views.
So in the name of democracy, clearly the term of the moment, in the defense of the people's will, we must censor people and make certain that individuals can't read and hear what they choose to read and hear. At least they're being honest about it. Information is power. They want the power. Therefore, they must control the information. And so they are. That's what's happening. We told you a moment ago that nobody seems to be fighting back against this tide of repression, but that's not entirely true. This weekend, Rupert Murdoch, the man who started this company, won an award from a foundation in the UK. And here's part of what he said when he accepted it. Quote, "For those of us in the media, there is a real challenge to confront, a wave of censorship that seeks to silence conversation, to stifle debate, to ultimately stop individuals and societies from realizing their potential. This rigidly enforced conformity, aided and abetted by so-called social media, is a straitjacket on sensibility. Too many people have fought too hard in too many places for freedom of speech to be suppressed by this awful woke orthodoxy." This awful woke orthodoxy. Now, we don't quote our boss on the show very often, ever, actually. But that is exactly right. Awful woke orthodoxy is precisely what this is. There is nothing worse for the country, or for journalism, by the way. Every publisher, every owner of every media company should be saying this in public every single day. But they're not. Only ours is. No wonder they hate us.
Tucker Carlson. Now, if this doesn't frighten you, I don't know what will. And thanks to COVID-19, they're well on their way to fulfilling the dream of single-party rule. And the fact that they've been able to exacerbate racism with the riots by condoning everything the rioters have done since May, when the riots began and are still going on. In fact, Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland, Oregon, pepper sprayed a thug, one of the people he proudly stood with a few months ago, as they hurled things at him, and he got tear gassed. He stood strong with the resistance till they started threatening his life. Then the whole thing changed for Teddy Boy. But the damage was done by the time he turned, and it's still being done in Portland because he was too late. Way too late. Does he have any regrets? Only time will tell. So, COVID-19 came, killed hundreds of thousands of people. The riots came, killed God knows how many people as a result of defund the police. Or as the left might call it, collateral damage. or a means to an end. And they are realizing that end as we speak. Well, guess who apparently is advising Joe? I'll give you a hint. He's a crackhead. If you guessed Hunter Biden, you'd be right. Now, halfway through Obama's first term, Hunter Biden co-founded Rosemont Seneca Partners, one of his many shell businesses, to extract money from the communist Chinese government. It was an investment fund he founded with Christopher Hines, stepson of the former Secretary of State and climate envoy, John Kerry, and Devin Archer, a former John Kerry advisor. Hunter's relationship to a Chinese tycoon named Yi Jianming began to ramp up, according to a Senate report released in September. The founder of Chinese energy giant CEFC served as the nation's unofficial energy liaison to Russia. Here's a story about a message that Hunter sent to Yi in a message in 2017. He made an urgent request to Yi to wire him. This is Hunter talking. He wanted Yi to wire him $10 million as seed money for a new venture, Sinahawk Holdings, another company. According to an email obtained by The Post. In a missive, he said he was extending best wishes from the entire Biden family, and that, quote, "We are all hoping to see you here soon or in Shanghai." Now, Sinahawk Holdings is the company that Tony Bobolinsky, the whistleblower whose name and face you know, he was a part of Sinahawk Holdings, another Hunter Biden business. And he blew the whistle on the relationship with the Chinese Communist government. CEFC, the energy company, actually went bankrupt in March of last year. Now we know that CFCE, now we know, used a complex web of affiliated companies to facilitate fake deals, inflate trade figures, and obtain bank loans to fuel its aggressive expansion. Recent reports show emails that tie Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, Joe's brother, and Joe himself, the big guy, to payouts from this energy company before they went bankrupt. Interestingly, CFCE Chairman Yi, Hunter's buddy, disappeared in 2018 and has not been seen since, because that's what happens in tyrannical communist governments. People disappear without a trace. Happened with a doctor early on in COVID, a Chinese doctor. We also know Hunter Biden was concerned about going to jail. Have you heard this? He sent an email to his accountant asking him in early 2017, "How much money would I make if I was in jail?" So even Hunter knew he was involved in a criminal enterprise. According to reports, crackhead Hunter Biden is reportedly advising Joe Biden on China. The laptop, boy, that's yielding all sorts of information. Mainstream media will never report on that laptop because that is damning. Got more on that, as a matter of fact. Guess who just did an interview with Just the News? John Solomon. John Paul Mac Isaac. He is the Delaware computer shop owner who came into possession of that Hunter Biden laptop. He says an FBI agent initially gave him a warning to his family when he offered a copy of the evidence about Joe Biden's son. The FBI guy who he was peddling the computer to because it had damning evidence on him, the FBI guy said, allegedly, quote, "You better lawyer up and get out of my office." CFBI, that's our Department of Justice. Do they have any credibility left? So Isaac does this interview with John Solomon's Just the News. He described what concerned him most about the contents on the laptop. He also discussed his extensive efforts to get authorities in law enforcement and Congress to pay attention to it, and his anger at the news media, who have just completely dismissed it. This was offered as evidence to the news media. This is a bombshell for any news organization. But guess who didn't want it? You got it, everybody. CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, nobody wanted it. They didn't want any part of it because it would raise red flags on Joe and Hunter Biden. So they didn't even ask for it. U.S. intelligence has determined the laptop contents, now in the hands of the FBI and Congress, and part of a criminal tax case. That's right. Hunter Biden's being investigated now for his taxes. That's been made public. It was not Russian disinformation, as news media all said it was. No, the Russian disinformation was having Adam Schiff on every single day and letting him say how it's provable that there was all of this quid pro quo and these nasty dealings with Ukraine. Adam Schiff was on every day. Same during the Mueller report, the Mueller investigation. Every day, I've got proof. Now there's your disinformation on Russia, disinformation on the Ukraine, all coming from Schiffhead. That smug, good-for-nothing California Democrat. So it's been determined that this laptop was not Russia disinformation, that the news still will not report on. Isaac said he never took a dime for providing these materials, this laptop, this hard drive, to the FBI, Congress, and Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani, not even when he was offered a reimbursement for the hard drive and equipment he used to make copies. Isaac said a man identifying himself as Hunter Biden dropped the laptop off and other water-damaged computer equipment in early spring 2019 and failed to pick it up, even after signing a document declaring it would become the shop's property in 90 days. Now, was Hunter Biden completely out of his mind, stoned? Was he whacked out or something and forgot he ever dropped it off or wondered where it went? I guess that's plausible knowing his history, right? After 90 days passed, Isaac, the computer store owner, said he examined the laptop contents and was troubled by what he found. Explicit sex photos and evidence of large suspicious foreign transactions involving the Biden family and the Ukraine, China, and Russia. There's your Russian collusion. All on this laptop. He said he asked his father, an Air Force veteran, for advice that summer of 2019, and his dad went to an FBI agent in Albuquerque, New Mexico in September of 2019 with a copy of the laptop contents. Isaac is visually impaired. He said he had no doubts the laptop belonged to Hunter Biden after inspecting the contents on the hard drive. He said probably within about 30 minutes of performing the data transfer, I had been able to identify the person that was in the shop was indeed the person that was on the computer and the owner of the computer. That would be one Hunter Biden. Asked what prompted him to approach the FBI, he said he was concerned by the emails and other records on the laptop showing complex financial transactions with foreigners, especially with the Ukraine and the Burisma Holdings gas company that was in the impeachment headlines in the summer of 2019, where Joe Biden clearly on video bragged about quid pro quo, something else that never made CNN. This is CNN. Never made CNN, never made MSNBC or any of the other big three so-called news networks. Never made the Today Show with Savannah Guthrie, hard to believe, or Willie Geist, little porcelain doll sitting in between Mika and Joe Scarborough on MSNBC, quiet little Willie Geist. Obviously, and this is Isaac speaking, obviously, by that time, during the summer, Ukraine was in the conversation. So I had remembered seeing some things, and there was obviously the personal data. That was a concern, but also the Ukraine stuff. Some of these players were involved. And then the amount of money that was involved, that started to throw up red flags because people do horrible things over money, he said. Isaac said a month or so after he took the laptop in, an agent, an FBI guy from Delaware who specialized in child exploitation crimes, approached him, eventually seizing the laptop with a grand jury subpoena. But even then, Isaac said, the FBI seemed disinterested in the laptop contents. Why do you think they got it in 2019 and we didn't find out about it until last fall? Why, oh why? And there are leftists out there who still don't know anything about the laptop because all they watch is this propaganda, this Pravda-like news on cable and on the major networks, over-the-air networks. And they have to pay no penance. There's no problem. No problem. They are still allowed to call themselves news, even though they are not news. That should be a crime. They want Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, people like us, Rush Limbaugh, taken off the air just because we blow the whistle on these things. We call them out on these things. We unmask them on these things. That is not allowed in the People's Republic of America. Soon to be 51 states. Have you heard about that? The ball's rolling on D.C. statehood. There you go. They want power for life. This is what they want. And they are slowly but surely realizing that dream. Isaac goes on in this interview with John Solomon of Just the News. They really didn't show any interest in any of the money, he said. They were more interested in why I was afraid and not necessarily what was on the drive. We sat down, Isaac said, and the first thing they asked me was if I had seen any child pornography. And you know, I'm not wanting to look at another man's porn, so I generally wasn't. It wasn't what I was looking for. When I sat down to look at stuff, I focused on the Ukraine. What I casually saw when I was doing the data transfer for sure, there was porn. Allegedly, as we have heard for months, child porn. With Hunter involved. One of the people seen on the videotapes is none other than Malia Obama, a 16-year-old in underwear at the time. Hunter Biden has long denied wrongdoing, but he did recently acknowledge that he was under investigation by a U.S. attorney in Delaware for tax affairs. Federal officials have declined to comment except to acknowledge the probe began in 2018. Now, will Hunter walk? Will Joe walk? Oh, probably. They protect their own. They protect their own butts. There weren't many people out there protecting Trump other than Trump. and some of his attorneys. By the way, Lynn Wood, the sketchy guy who I thought was sketchy the first time I saw him at I think it was an airport, making this evangelical-like speech about the investigation into the election fraud. Evangelical. He was literally a preacher. And that made me very uncomfortable. And then he started saying that Republicans shouldn't go out and vote for Loeffler and Perdue, the two Republicans running for the Georgia Senate, because they hadn't supported Donald Trump enough. Well, turns out the kid from Covington High School, the kid that was maligned by mainstream media after he stood up because he couldn't move in front of Nathan Phillips, the Indian, the Native American elder. Remember, he was completely raked over the coals. Lynn Wood was his lawyer. He has now fired Lynn Wood. What does that tell you? Kind of interesting. I always thought Lynn Wood, he's great. He's great to have on your team. And maybe he's a great lawyer. I don't know. But he's sketchy at best, I think, from what I've seen. I've got a gut. My gut told me when he made that impassioned evangelical speech, he was with Sidney Powell. I thought, something not completely right about this guy. Now, I don't have anything against evangelists or preaching or anything like that. I have nothing against it. But this guy's supposed to be an attorney making a case, not preaching a sermon. And he was doing it. And I thought, something wrong with this guy. And as time goes on, we see more and more sketchy things out of him. I still have a lot of respect for Sidney Powell, although I really wonder, I still have a lot of questions about her as well. You know, my favorite one of the whole bunch, I'll be real honest with you here, maybe yours too, was Jenna Ellis. But I don't know her well enough to really make any kind of a judgment call. Giuliani, we know Giuliani's a good attorney. He was a great mayor of New York, but he also is really into hype. And I think this whole thing with voter fraud was hype. I'm not saying there was no voter fraud. There was clearly voter fraud. There's not much question about that in my mind. Again, you can see, you can actually see through the crap and everything the Democrats have thrown at us, saying that it is baseless claims. Everything the news media throws at us, they are news, right? And they're saying baseless claims. Based on what? There was never a trial. There was never a court that looked at it. How are they a news outlet who, according to Chuck Todd, never makes editorial opinion on any of these MSNBC casts during the daytime? How are they saying baseless claims when they don't know? No, that's editorial opinion. That's not news. The news is there are accusations of voter fraud that are being heard right now, and we'll wait and see. We'll follow this for you. That's news. That's news reporting. Chuck Todd, I don't know if you know this because you are an utter moron, but news is telling the story, not giving editorial opinion, as you claim doesn't exist on your channel. But when you say baseless claims of voter fraud, sorry, that crosses the line. That is editorial opinion. So shut your fat, goateed, twitching mouth because you don't know what you're talking about. You are a moron. But they'll get the voters. They will get the voters. The Dems will get the voters because they are fundamentally changing America right now. In addition to making D.C. a state, which apparently you don't, and what people are saying, the Capitol's in there, and the Capitol, what they're going to do, they're very clever. They're very clever. What's her name? Muriel Bowser. Perfect name for her, Bowser. Muriel Bowser reminds me of that character from, what was it, Super Mario Brothers? Bowser, was that the monster's name? She is a monster. So what they're going to do is they're going to cut out the district where the Capitol buildings and all the federal buildings are, and all of the rest of it's going to be the state of the District of Columbia or something. And they're well on their way to doing this, by the way. So that'll get them a couple of more senators. And D.C. is probably, with the exception maybe of Southern California, maybe one of the most, it'll be probably the most leftist state in the country. Because California, believe it or not, does have a lot of conservatives in it. I don't know if D.C. has a one, other than the conservative senators who may or may not be there. Maybe they're masquerading as conservative and they're not. A lot have proven that. Now, Immigrations and Custom Enforcement, ICE, who they want to get rid of. They don't like ICE, they don't like DHS, because those two organizations do what the Constitution says they are there to do. They protect us. They protect us from enemies, foreign and domestic. They protect us from enemies, foreign. That's what the wall was there for, to help ICE, to help DHS. So they want to get rid of those because they are doing what the Constitution is there for, to protect our rights. They don't care about our rights. And the leftists don't understand they don't care about our rights. They have no clue. They don't know what tyrannical is. They call Donald Trump Hitler. They call him a tyrant. They call him a fascist. They are too ignorant to even know what those words mean. They throw them around like they're intellectually superior to you and me. They think they are. They know they are. Therein lies the danger. But they don't know what those terms mean. They are, in fact, what they called Trump for 4 years. They are, in fact, the embodiment of fascism, tyranny, Marxism, socialism, communism. But they can't see it because they're too woke. Tucker Carlson talked about the absurdity of all of a sudden making everybody who is illegal in this country free to move about as they want. This is only a minute and a half. This is a shorter Tucker piece, but he makes perfect sense of this idiocy.
Well, we've got some exclusive reporting for you tonight. In Joe Biden's first day in office, the Department of Homeland Security issued a sweeping directive calling for a 100-day pause on deportations. We reported that last night. We now have an internal email sent yesterday to ICE officers in Texas that shows how this order was enacted. And we're quoting, "As of midnight tonight, stop all removals. This includes Mexican bus runs, charter flights, and commercial removals until further notice. All cases are to be considered no significant likelihood of removal in foreseeable future." In other words, stop sending people here illegally back to the country of origin. The official goes on to say this, and we're quoting, "Release them all immediately. No sponsor available is not acceptable any longer." The official notes in the email that he is just, quote, the messenger explaining the directive. It wasn't his idea. It was Joe Biden's. Now, this email was news to us. Friday's memorandum from the Biden administration to halt deportations did not call for people here illegally to be released from detention. We made some calls today and we learned that Homeland Security is currently hammering out how to enact the memorandum. It does not specifically call for the instant release of all migrants in detention. So what was this memo about? Just the result of the complete chaos that resulted when the incoming administration on its first day changed a policy this big without explaining what it means. Chaos. Well, we thought the last administration had a monopoly on that. Apparently not.
Apparently not. Apparently not. He wants everybody to be free to move about and vote about and mail-in vote about however they like to. Doesn't matter if they're here legally or not. I wouldn't be surprised if they start talking about tearing down the border wall that Donald Trump had built, as he promised he would. By the way, Mr. Unity has made his feelings about the impeachment of the former president known, too. He told CNN, Joe Biden, Mr. Unity, told CNN, I think it has to happen. Maybe not as eloquently as I just stated. Biden made the comment during a brief one-on-one on CNN. in the halls of the West Wing. He acknowledged the effect it could have on his legislative agenda and cabinet nominees, but said there would be a worse effect if it didn't happen. Meaning you and I might have the freedom to vote for who we wanted to have as president in 4 years, or maybe he would run for something else in 2 years. Joe Biden doesn't want us to have that choice. He just made it clear. The impeachment, although unconstitutional, he's already out of office, has got to happen. Joe Biden's a moderate. You laugh. You put a big LAMO. Next time you see a leftist say that Joe Biden's a moderate, put a big LAM. You know what I'm trying to say on there, because they don't know what they're saying. They don't know what they're talking about. They're clueless. Biden told CNN he believed the outcome would be different if Trump had 6 months left in his term, but he doesn't. He doesn't think 17 Republican senators will vote to convict Trump, so he doesn't think Donald Trump is going to be removed with a guilty verdict. He's hoping that. This is completely out of hand. This is getting away from us very fast. And you know how they feel about us, right? We can't speak freely. Our news outlets should be shut down. Katie Couric thinks we ought to be deprogrammed. Did you hear that? Did you actually hear it? Here's how it went.
I mean, what do you do?
By the way, this is Bill Maher. She's on with Bill Maher.
I mean, what do you do about these people? There's 147 Republicans in Congress who still don't concede that Trump lost the election. What do you do about people who are in the government who don't believe in our way of government?
It is so shocking. Not only are they not conceding, Bill, but there's thoughts that there might have been some collusion among members of Congress. Some are refusing to go through magnometers or whatever you call them to check for weapons. They're not wearing masks during the siege. I mean, it's really bizarre, isn't it, when you think about how AWOL so many of these members of Congress have gotten. But I also think some of them are believing the garbage that they are being fed 24/7 on the internet by their constituents, and they bought into this big lie. And the question is, how are we going to really almost deprogram these people who have signed up for the cult of Trump?
The cult of Trump. They don't get us. They don't understand us. They just hate us. They hate us. They've got a fire in the belly. It's hate for us. All Trump supporters need to be deprogrammed because we're in a cult. We're in a cult of freedom. It's not a cult of Trump. Don't misunderstand, Katie Mook moron Couric. By the way, her opportunity to guest host Jeopardy is reportedly in danger after she advocated for reprogramming or deprogramming Trump supporters. She doesn't deserve any opportunities. She should just ride off into the sunset. But, you know, she has a right to say what she feels, and she did. We should not get that same right, by the way. That's what they're saying. That's what they're asserting. 10:57, we've got to take a break. We've got news, and we're going to be back with Climate School. Share with your friends, because one of the most, it's really hard to prioritize what is the worst thing that Biden is doing, has done, or is doing right now. But I think thousands of jobs being lost in America and in Canada and pissing off our neighbor to the north, I think that's pretty high on the priority list, and it's all being done in the name of saving the planet. Saving, just like Janet Mills. By the way, speaking of Janet Mills, thank you, Mikkel, for reminding me of this. The the paycheck protection loans that the federal government's not taxing? Governor Mills is taxing because she let money burn a hole in her pocket before COVID-19 came because she wants to help everybody. We got to help everybody. Plan for a rainy day. What's that? What is that? She has no clue. So bars are still locked down. We've got restaurants still at half capacity. People are losing their shirts. And now they're going to get some paycheck protection, and it's going to be taxed by Tyrant Mills. How about that? Climate School coming up. I'm John James.
Legacy 1160, WSKW.
What's important here at Moody's is we have a lot of opportunity for upward mobility.
Moody's definitely helped me through. They sent me to school. I got my degree in business. I had the demeanor and I had the willpower and the want.
Our trade is constantly changing and there's always new challenges that arise.
I definitely feel like an owner. It's very exciting.
When you like what you do, you like your job, you like the people you work with, what else could you ask for?
Bring your skills to Moody's and build a long-term future with us.
Townline Antiques wants to know, what are you shopping for today? Searching for furniture to add to your home? Townline Antiques has beautiful pieces of furniture for every room, built to last with quality materials from the past. Thinking of decorating in a classic style? You'll find enchanting home decor, artwork, glassware, and hundreds more items around every corner. Do you collect books, comics, coins, sports memorabilia, watches, or classic electronics? Townline Antiques has cool, rare, and one-of-a-kind items to add to your collection that you won't find anywhere else. If you love searching through the treasures of the past, here's more great news. Townline Antiques has expanded with extra booth space. Now there are even more quality antiques to browse every time you visit. Plus, there are a limited number of dealer spaces now available. If you'd like to learn more about selling at Townline Antiques, just stop in. Townline Antiques, open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 5. Route 201, right on the Winslow-Vassaboro Town Line.
At most dealerships, used vehicles are in short supply, and the vehicles that they do have are priced as though they're made of solid gold. At Darling's in Augusta and Brunswick, we have a great selection of quality used vehicles to choose from at prices to fit almost any budget. In fact, we have a large selection of inspected vehicles that are priced below $12,000. Put your tax return to good use and drive away in a reliable vehicle with low monthly payments. Darling's team of professionals take pride in finding the right vehicle for you, regardless of your credit history or prior financial concerns. We take the time to listen to your needs, and we won't rest until you find exactly what you're looking for. Choose from over 500 vehicles in stock right now at Darling's. Visit us online at darlings.com or stop by to see us today in Augusta or at our newest location in Brunswick. You'll do better at Darlings.
I'm CBS 13 meteorologist Lexi O'Connor. Sunny to start this morning with increasing clouds through this afternoon. Highs will be in the low to mid 30s. Cloudy with periods of light snow tonight through Wednesday. Only light accumulations are expected, but we could have some slick spots for the Wednesday morning commute. Mostly cloudy, chance for some lingering showers Thursday. Highs in the 30s through Thursday, but then dropping to the teens and low 20s for Friday.
From the Home Auto Group Studios, Farmington Ford and Franklin Chrysler in Farmington. This is WSKW, Skowhegan, Augusta, Waterville, Legacy 1160.
ABC News, I'm Jim Ryan. The single article of impeachment against former President Trump has now been delivered to the Senate. ABC's Rachel Scott is on Capitol Hill with more.
That trial will not start for another 2 weeks. Senator Patrick Leahy will be presiding, and both sides signaling they want to get this over with quickly. Democrats, though, will need the support of at least 17 Republicans, and already a growing number of Republicans are throwing cold water on this trial since Trump is no longer in office. President Biden saying even though he believes the trial needs to happen, he's casting some doubt over whether or not there will be enough Republican support to convict.
The United States has reached more than 25 million cases of COVID. President Biden is confident in the vaccines, but cautious, warning that the U.S. death toll could top 660,000 before we start turning the corner. A teenager was killed when a tree fell on his house in suburban Birmingham, Alabama overnight. He and his family had gone to the basement during a tornado. At least 28 people were hurt. This is ABC News. Home prices are on a bit of a rocket ride. The Case-Shiller 20-City Home Price Index is up more than 9% in November compared to the year before. The Italian government is in scramble mode, with Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte suddenly resigning.
The timing couldn't be worse.
Says political expert Cecilia Sottilotta of the end of Italy's 65th government since World War II. Last week, former Prime Minister Matteo Renzi pulled his crucial support from Conte's government, saying not enough of the $200 billion EU recovery fund was being used to modernize Italy. To keep the country from elections or some kind of interim government, Conte has to come up with new supporters. No sure thing. Megan Williams, ABC News, Rome.
And a new honor for Jane Fonda. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association has announced that she'll receive the Cecil B. DeMille Award at the Golden Globe ceremony next month, citing her on-screen career and her, quote, unrelenting activism. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
The Rocket Mortgage Super Bowl Squares Sweepstakes is back. It's the largest official game of Super Bowl Squares ever, with millions of dollars in prizes, and best of all, it's free to enter. Every score change, someone wins $50,000. Just enter for free at rocketmortgagesquares.com, and it could be you. Touchdowns, field goals, safeties, extra points. Every single score change will draw one lucky winner from the square to win $50,000. Plus, 2 grand prize winners will win $500,000 they could use toward their dream home. One way to enter, 2 ways to win. See rules and enter for free at rocketmortgagesquares.com. Then tune into the Super Bowl on February 7th to see if you bring home some dough. Rocket Mortgage, official mortgage sponsor of Super Bowl 55.
No purchase necessary. Legal residence of 50 U.S. and D.C. of age of majority. Ends 2/4/2021, 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states and MLS number 3030. The NFL entities as defined in the official rules have not offered to sponsor this promotion in any way.
It doesn't matter who chooses the topic. He just wants to talk. Call 621 WSKW. John James on Legacy 1160.
Hi, how are you? 1106. Donald Trump in Florida has established the office of the former president. Hey, you know, if Biden can establish an office of the president-elect, I know that's been considered a thing for other elections, but not really an office. So the office of the former president, I like that. Good for him. By the way, what do you think about the Patriot Party? Do you think that's a good idea? Boy, that could backfire, huh? You got 3 parties now. Democrats are going to get even more votes. The conservatives are going to be split between the 2 conservative parties. And the Democrats will win. I mean, I'm sure they would love to see it. I would love to see it. 1106. And Joe Biden and mainstream media are killing jobs and killing people. But they are righteous. Just ask Chris Cuomo over at CNN. Everything Chris Cuomo Fredo does is righteous. It's all good. There's nothing to question there. Nothing to see there. He and Don Lemon, they don't worry. They're controlling the world. They're controlling the narrative. They let you know what they want you to hear. Don't question it. Shut up, listen, and take it to the bank. Anything Joe Biden wants to do, doesn't matter what it is. Travel ban, they're not going to call it xenophobic or racist. By the way, Joe Biden's travel ban included at least parts of Africa. Well, okay, so a lot of that's where the slaves originally came from. Now you're banning travel. What? Joe Biden is not only a xenophobe, he's a racist. Well, we know he's a racist, okay? So that's not news. But nobody on mainstream media is calling him that. Joy Reid isn't saying, oh, Joe Biden showing his colors now, he's a racist. Joy Reid would never say that about Joe Biden, even if she knows it's true, which I'm sure she does, because she herself is a racist. But she's also a leftist. She's a leftist first. As short-sighted Joe Biden and his leftist legions cancel fossil fuels and sound the fake climate change alarms. Welcome to climate school, by the way. Many thousands of American and Canadian workers are suddenly jobless. Plus, you can expect to see oil, coal, natural gas, heating oil, fuel for your cars skyrocketing. And Indians are upset in Utah because their lifeline is the fossil fuel industry. Oh, and by the way, unions for fossil fuel workers, for oil workers, gas workers, representing the Keystone Pipeline, which was just lost its permit. Suddenly, they eagerly endorsed Joe Biden. Now they're not very happy with their endorsement. Oh, Joe Biden, he's not going to stop anything. Joe Biden's all for fossil fuels. Kamala the opportunist, the smug Kamala opportunist Harris, another racist, likes to use race at every, oh, I'm the first black Asian woman. What about the women? You were big on the Me Too movement during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. What happened to that? What woman? What woman are you talking about? Tara Reid. Who? Well, she accused Joe Biden of raping her. I don't know anything about her. But you just said, I just played the audio of you last week saying she should be heard. She should be believed. I don't know what you're talking about. Kamala Harris. Oh, the left loves her. They post pictures of her walking that power walk with her purse. Yeah, Kamala Harris, she's our girl. Yeah. Okay, you're phonies. You're all phonies. You're all phonies. You don't care about women. You don't care about women's rights. You don't care about sexism. You don't care about women's power. You don't, unless it's your own. Or if you're just a rank and file citizen like most of us, all you care about is echoing what people like Kamala and Joe and the leftists tell you to. Okay, Kamala's great. She's great. She is making pathways for women. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I want a world full of women like Kamala. Like, I need that like I need a hole in the frickin' head. Right? You too. Jason Kenney, who is the premier of Alberta, appeared on Fox News, The Story with Martha McCallum, where he said that Biden's move, quote, kills thousands of union labor jobs on both sides of the U.S.-Canada border and counterintuitively makes the United States more dependent on dictatorships for its energy needs. Right? Remember Donald Trump's bringing troops home? Because one of the big reasons troops go overseas is to secure oil supplies. Remember when Iraq invaded Kuwait? You remember the oil wells set on fire? Remember the flames just burning eternally? We're going to have to send, if you've got grandkids or kids, or you yourself are in the armed services, well, the road's being paved to go back to Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Iran or Kuwait or wherever. Joe Biden's making sure of it because we can't be energy independent. Environmentalists are stupid. They're all environmentalists. Everybody on the left is an environmentalist, or they're beholden to the environmentalists. They don't want fossil fuels. They don't want nuclear power. They want wind and solar. Yeah. And batteries. Oh, those clean batteries, which are going to be requiring a lot of landfill space. No danger there, though. Andy Black President and CEO of the Association of Oil Pipelines said killing 10,000 jobs and taking $2.2 billion in payroll out of workers' pockets is not what Americans need or want right now. They also slammed Sleepy Joe for canceling the Keystone XL pipeline by the same unions who endorsed him in 2020. That was short-sighted. I was saying, when I heard about those endorsements, I was saying, and I said it on the radio, maybe you don't remember, I asked, are they fools? Are they that dumb? I know how to call a dummy, don't I? I know how to call out stupidity, don't I? Oh, they're smacking themselves in the head now. Why did we endorse that guy? We knew what he was. You knew what he was. You're more beholden to the leftists than you are to your own industry. You would have endorsed Donald Trump if you had a brain in your head. I knew when that endorsement was made that if he was elected, you would be sorry. And, it's like an epiphany to you now, isn't it? Oil union leaders. Can't believe he ended the pipe. It's Joe frickin' Biden. He was the vice president for Barack. Let's fund Solyndra with billions of dollars. Solyndra, the giant solar company that, oh, wait a minute, they're bankrupt now, aren't they? Would you like these people taking care of your budget at home? Where was the tyranny in Donald Trump? He allowed all this. He cut regulations. He was go pipeline, go fossil fuels, yay America. There is no American cheerleading from the left. None. There's apologies, there are regulations, and there is the ending of an industry that powers our infrastructure. Aren't you happy you endorsed him now? My 12-year-old grandson, Evan, who is very smart, would have said to them, wait a minute here. That's kind of stupid. He wouldn't, because he's a very polite kid. But somebody his age could say, wait a minute, that's stupid. Here you've got an administration looking to get elected. They hate fossil fuels. They love AOC and the Green New Deal that calls for a complete annihilation of all fossil fuels in America. And this is who you're going to endorse? Are you a fool? Well, I said they were, but now I think we have the answer. So, how blind are they? They say in September, Leuna, that's the name of the union, they proudly endorsed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, claiming they are so blind. The woke are so stupid. They're so blind. It's laughable. You feel sorry for them. They're pathetic. They're pathetic. They claim the Democrats stand out as the blue-collar candidates. They stand. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden stand out as blue-collar candidates. That's what they said when they endorsed them. The oil. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's epic. That is just absolutely epic. They stand out as the blue collar candidates. How blind is that? I mean, Trump is clearly the blue-collar candidate. It was clear as the nose on your face if you're not stupid and woke. Stand out as blue-collar candidates. Give me a break. You and I could see that. No, we could see the phoniness and the smugness of the left and the genuineness of Trump, but they couldn't. They couldn't. Now they've got buyer's remorse. What poor judges of character. What lame individuals they are. What self-righteous people they are. If I were the workers, I would get rid of those unions. Well, not that it's going to matter. They're all out of jobs now. They're represented by nobody except unemployment. So, as the oil industry suffers, we too get to suffer. It wouldn't be hard to understand if the whole climate change disaster argument wasn't such a piece of garbage. Nobody is more willing to push the alarmism than the self-anointed climate experts and journalist wannabes like Katie Tur over at MSDNC. Katie Tur, one of the smart ones. Oh, she's kind of pretty. That's all she's got going for her. Listen.
But after a massive disinformation push by the fossil fuel industry, including heavy lobbying of and financial contributions to GOP lawmakers and some Democrats, there has been a shift towards devastating denial and inaction, even in the face of scientific consensus, culminating in Donald Trump, who was not just a climate skeptic, he could call him an outright climate denier as president, and he also called global warming an expensive hoax. Over his 4 years in office, Donald Trump laid siege to environmentalism. He curtailed the Clean Power Plan. He promoted coal and fracking. He denigrated clean energy and claimed wind turbines cause cancer. He deregulated the oil and gas industries and pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. All the while, natural disasters raged across the United States.
Nothing to do with climate change.
Made worse by climate change. In fact, during Donald Trump's term, more than 8 million acres of land in California were burned by wildfires.
Oh, Katie, let me specify. Let me be a little bit more accurate with that. Not due to man-made climate change, Katie Tur. That sounded like opinion. Sounded an awful lot like opinion, like she was railing on Donald Trump. But I know it can be because our friend Chuck Todd says.
And just a reminder, for what it's worth, there is no editorial point of view here on any of these newscasts on MSNBC in the daytime.
Okay, Chuck, it's worth nothing. Okay, for what it's worth nothing. Anything you say is worth zero. You've got nothing. Now go away. Now, if you're a kid in school or a leftist, Kool-Aid swilling progressive or lemming, I don't know, I can come up with a lot of descriptions, I guess, you're probably scared to death. And you can't wait for the next climate strike, the student climate strike. That would be great. At least I know Greta Thunberg is probably ready for it. You remember her?
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean.
Dare you?
Yet you all come to us young people for hope.
I feel sorry for her.
How dare you?
How dare you?
You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words.
Oh my God.
And yet I'm one of the lucky ones.
You're lucky.
People are suffering. People are dying.
No, they're not.
Entire ecosystems are collapsing.
No, they're not.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
Oh my
and
God.
all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth.
Oh my word. I feel sorry for her. She's being abused. She's one of the lucky ones. I would say not. I would say she is not lucky at all. Whoever her handlers are, who call themselves her parents probably, should be ashamed of themselves. She just turned 18, by the way. So now she can go off on her own without her parents accompanying her. But I'm sure they're helicopter parents. I'm sure they are. They stand to make some pretty good money off their pawn, little Greta. So I'm sure they'll be milking that for all it's worth. Have you ever heard of Michael Schellenberger? Michael Schellenberger is an author. He's head of the research and policy group Environmental Progress. And he argues in a Hill.tv interview that climate change is not the most pressing environmental problem. Now, I want to preface this by saying Michael Schellenberger is a renowned and respected activist, climate activist. He knows more about the climate than Janet Mills or Bernie Sanders or AOC, who wakes up at the 3 in the morning from a sound sleep thinking about climate change because she's an idiot and she has no other thoughts in her mind except climate change. Oh, and free health care for all. That'll be the Pledge of Allegiance, with liberty and free health care for all. So Michael Schellenberger wrote a book called Apocalypse Never. And he says there is no evidence that climate change is an existential threat. That is the favorite word of the mainstream media. Existential threat, existential threat, existential threat. Again, Schellenberger is a big-time environmentalist and climate activist. And this is what he has to say.
So I've been an environmental activist for 30 years. I've been a climate activist for 20 years. I was one of the architects of the original Green New Deal, which we called the New Apollo Project, and which President Obama largely implemented. And 10 years ago, I changed my mind about nuclear energy. I realized that we needed nuclear energy to solve climate change. I was working on a book about nuclear, and then last year, the conversation about climate change just became crazy. I don't know what else to describe it as. People were saying things like billions of people will die. Adolescents were worried that they wouldn't live long enough to have children. And so I decided to broaden my focus to environmental alarmism more broadly. I wanted to emphasize some things that I think are really important, some things I discovered in the research for Apocalypse Never, which is, climate change is real. It is a problem that we need to deal with, but it's not the end of the world, and it's not even our most serious environmental problem. Humans are not causing a sixth mass extinction. There is no evidence that climate change is making natural disasters worse. In fact, natural disasters are getting better. The deaths from natural disasters have been declining 90% over the last 100 years. It appears as though there's going to be fewer natural disaster deaths this year than at any other point in recorded history. These are incredible successes. There's every reason to think that we will be able to survive climate change. In fact, nobody should die from climate change. That may sound shocking, but there is no reason that anybody should die from climate change if we take the right steps.
Okay, there's Michael Schellenberger right there. He's a climate activist, and he hates the alarmism. He hates the alarmism. Craig, I've got to read Craig's statement. Replying to, he replied to himself. Okay, Craig says, why do you tune in for science info from a washed up morning show, DJ? Why did you, Craig? The reason I'm talking about this is hopefully we will have some people ignorant, some Kool-Aid drinkers, some lemmings tune in and get the truth. And apparently we have at least one. So, yay. I score that a victory. So, climate change scientists got together in 2018, and they talked about global warming. They talked about climate change. Craig, you should listen to this. This would really do you some good. I know you're going to shut it out because you believe what your handlers tell you. that climate change is real. We're all going to die in 11 years because your God is climate change. And preacher AOC and preacher Bernie Sanders know, they know what you need to hear. And if you don't believe it, then you aren't smart. You are just a climate denier. That's what they tell you. So naturally you believe it rather than listening to objectivity and common sense. Am I on the money with that? So, following the Global Climate Summit a couple of years ago, these guys got together and they got zero coverage, by the way, from the mainstream media. Zero as in none, zero, nothing. And why would they? It goes against the narrative. You can see from people like, we see people on here from time to time who come on and they just have nothing good to say. They do nothing except personal. So this guy comes on and instead of presenting an argument, he starts personal attacks. This is their modus operandi. This is all they are capable of. So these scientists got together, and why did it get no coverage? Because it wasn't scary enough. In fact, it was actually very reassuring. It proves that all these things Biden is doing to kill our economy, all of these things Janet Mills is doing that, we can't even afford to get by, many of us in Maine, and she's spending money on windmills and whatever else, solar panels left and right, killing the economy. Now, these things are not only short-sighted, they are completely and totally unnecessary. They're a red herring. They're taking our mind off what they're doing. The big power grab is all it is. That's all it is. Someday your woke leftists may see that. They may wake up and they may see that. But I think they may be too far gone. They may be too far gone. Their brains may have been completely converted to that leftist, communist, angry, vitriolic, enraged, woke ideology that they're ruining their lives because their lives are nothing more than continuous rage. Let's see who it can attack today. Cute. They're really cute. They are. So, this big power grab is going on, and we're doing it partly in the name of climate change, destroying the economy, destroying America, sending more people. We're going to be sending more troops into harm's way, fighting endless wars, just as Donald Trump was bringing people home. Turns out we aren't destroying the earth, not even close. Now, this piece starts out with a guy named James M. Taylor, not the singer, former director of the Arthur B. Robinson Center for Climate and Environmental Policy, and he hands it off to a guy named Richard Keene, who is a professor emeritus of atmospheric science at the University of Colorado. And they talk about historic temperature changes. Now, listen to this.
One of the few instances in which something scientific was somewhat mentioned at the Global Climate Action Summit, and I'm going to repeat that because no science was presented, and no science ever is. They always say they don't want to discuss the science. They're not here to debate the science. Well, there's a reason for that, because the science contradicts what they assert. But one of the assertions was that temperatures now are the warmest they've been since the last ice age. The gentleman from Stockholm, I believe the Stockholm Sustainability Center or something like that, made that assertion.
Johan Rock.
So let me ask the question, and I guess I'll start this with Dr. Keene, but anybody else, please feel free to weigh in. Are temperatures today, and it's important to have the right context, are today's temperatures warmer than they've been since the last ice age? And when was that last ice age?
Well, the last ice age peaked about 18,000 years ago. And about 12,000 years ago, the big melt began. And about 5,000 years ago, the big melt finished. But there's still some residual ice around places like Greenland and Antarctica. So by some definitions, we are still in an ice age. Okay, so our current temperatures, and by current, maybe talking the past 20, 30 years, are they the warmest since the last ice age? No way. We talk about climate deniers. I think the truest climate deniers are the ones who think climate history began in 1970 or 1960. And you'll see a lot of graphs showing average temperatures in Paducah, Kentucky, starting in 1960. And you might see a warming trend going up. Or picking some other place, Johannesburg, you pick a spot. If you start in 1970, odds are you will see warming. Not universally, but you probably see more stations warming than cooling. But weather data goes back a couple hundred years. The thermometer was invented in the 1700s. And there were widespread in certain countries, US and Europe and Japan, places have a pretty good climate record. And the hottest years on record, many of these places remains in the 1930s. Well, what were the 1930s noted for? Anybody in the US who was alive at that time will know it for the Dust Bowl. And not only was it hot, it was extreme. I mean, I can throw anecdotal numbers, to a closing time here. I'll mention it was 120 degrees in North Dakota. It was also 60 below in North Dakota that winter. Both were the highest and coldest ever recorded in North Dakota. So if we want to talk about climate weirding instead of global warming, which is sort of the tendency, because really the warming is becoming less and less apparent as time goes on. So we talk about global weirding or more extremes. You go back to the 1930s and you can't shake a stick at what happened. In terms of hurricanes, the greatest hurricane in New England, a Category 3, struck Long Island, went up the Connecticut River Valley, did not happen before that we know of, and hasn't happened since.
The 1930s, the Dust Bowl, extreme temperatures, giant hurricane in New England. No mass panic and urge to change the way people interact with nature and the earth. And almost 100 years later, we're still here. We're living better. We're living longer than ever before. Humans adapt. The climate will change. It always has. But now suddenly we've got to react to it because man is ruining the earth. If you knew how incrementally carbon emissions are up caused by man, okay, you wouldn't believe. If you're on the left, you wouldn't believe it. If you're on the right, you'd understand this is all smoke and mirrors. It's all part of a means to an end, takeover of America. And as we've seen this morning, you cannot convince the ignorant because they won't listen. They'll just throw insults out. That's all they can do is insult you. So this next guy, Stanley Goldenberg, a meteorologist and hurricane researcher, sounds an actual alarm about climate crisis. He does. Now listen very carefully to him.
I just want to read something that they should read this at the Climate Summit. I think they should really read this today to describe what's going on. And this is from a reliable source, American Meteorological Society Monthly Weather Review publication, that the Arctic Ocean is warming up. Icebergs are growing scarcer, and in some places the seals are finding the water too hot, according to a report by the Commerce Department at Bergen, Norway. Reports from fishermen, sea hunters, explorers all over point to radical change in climate conditions. Why aren't they reading this? And hitherto unheard of temperatures in the Arctic zone. Exploration expeditions report scarcely any ice as far north as 81 degrees. Soundings show the Gulf Stream very warm. Masses of ice have been replaced by moraines of earth and stones. And it goes on and on. Within a few years, it's predicted that due to the ice melt, the sea will rise and make most coastal cities uninhabitable.
Wow.
What year was that written?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. This is 1922. This is November 1922, and this is real. This is not urban legend.
Yeah.
This has really happened. This was really reported. It was warm then, and then guess what happened after that? Of course, it cooled off, and so I just had to throw that. One of the monthly weather review,
Meteorological Society publication.
These were all facts.
All right, what are you going to listen to? When are you going to wake up, leftists? When are you going to see you're being duped? Are you even capable? Are you so far gone that all you know is rage and leftist drivel? Yeah, I'm kind of crazy-eyed like AOC, aren't I? I can do that look, too. Got that AOC look about me. So, 1922, I've told you that story before, and there it is. There's a scientist, a meteorologist, a hurricane specialist reading from the actual publication, which, by the way, I know all the leftists love. They will throw Snopes at you all day long if they find a chink in your armor. Google it. Climate crisis 1922 or climate scare 1922. And Snopes is going to be one of the first things that comes up. And click on it, and it's going to have the green true sign because it is true. You like my eyes, Alan? Thank you. I can do big pie eyes. And I don't even have to be pie-eyed. Terry Gannon, PhD, talks about why so many people believe that what climate alarmists are saying. The poor things your friends, maybe not, who preach climate change and electric cars and veganism don't know. They just don't know. They don't know. They don't want to be schooled. They don't want another opinion. They want to believe what they're told to believe and not research it and nothing else because climate is their God. The government is their leader. It really is the great power grab. And it's all about, you ready for this? You're ready for this? It's all about marketing. It's all about marketing. And you believe that, oh, there you go. That must be another hater. There you go. All they can do is sling insults. I love it. It's all day long. You just insult after insult. That's all they do. Because that's all they know. That's anger, rage, names, you name it. So it's a power grab. And the leftists are not seeing it. And they are doomed to have to experience it too. And they aren't going to like it any more than any of us are. But they aren't helping to solve the problem. They are the problem, you see. So in climate science, Dr. Gannon's technical background in semiconductor science, quantum mechanics, optical phenomena, multivariable nonlinear systems, and computer modeling has enabled him to examine climate change theories very comprehensively. Now, here's a story he tells about the great lies that you are being told every day and how they get so many impressionable people, young and old, to believe that it's all true and it's going to be a disaster. And it's all in the marketing.
So I think that really, as we look at the marketing side of things versus the reality side of things, as the gap gets bigger, this is the real challenge for people in the greater community. I think the people that were there in the summit today and in the audience today, are clearly very convinced of the marketing message. And none of them, I think, at the conference, and I would be surprised if there was any single person that could justify the future predictions coming from the climate models. And we could talk extensively about the climate models.
We will shortly.
Yeah, we will shortly. So I think that, this is really an important point to reflect on. I went to a talk at Stanford, very brief story. And Stephen Schneider was giving a talk a couple of decades ago while he was still alive. He became a very strong global warming advocate, an AGW advocate. But back in the 50s and 60s, he was selling the consensus of global cooling. And he said at the end of his talk, I think this is really something that I reflected on before coming here. He said at the very end of the talk, and he was outside at Stanford, so he knew he had a very friendly audience. He basically made the statement, well, we all know that, basic majority rule works in courts, but really what I'm interested in is social engineering.
That's how they do it. That's how you get these people in your corner. That's how you get them to believe everything you say, and that's why they get so angry when you voice other opinions, because they have literally, they accuse us of being Trumpanzees and part of the Trump cult and need to be reprogrammed. It's not about Trump. I could care less if Trump is the president next time, as long as it's somebody who has Trump-like beliefs. It's the system, not the person. Trump happened to install a very good system that we liked a lot because it was constitutional, because it allowed more freedom to do what we want to do, to make the money we want to make without all the regulations. Black unemployment at an all-time low. We had record unemployment, 3.5% at the height of it. But the poor, thank you, Casey. Casey's got my back there. I appreciate that. We get a couple of people on there now. Both of the ones I saw just calling names. All they do is name call. He said, "Go into your safe space, Buttercup." I love that. But they are just completely and totally gonzo. You can't reason with them. Glenn Beck had a book, Arguing with Idiots, and it's very frustrating to people who would like to have a good argument, but all they do is call names, and they Trumpanzee and Trumpster and T-Rump with a capital R. I mean, you've lost any ability to prove you have anything other than ignorance as soon as you start doing that. I was talking, we were going to have climate school today, and more than name a scientist. I don't know who the scientist was. I can't remember who the scientist was. I think I'm going to come on here without proof to back me up, without real authority to back me up. I never claimed to be a climate scientist, but I know where to look. I know where to look for true facts. It's hard to find because Google tends to like to hide it, but I have other sources I can go to, and I can find a lot of this stuff. If YouTube hasn't taken it down, or some of these other places haven't taken it down, and I'm sure it's going to come to that sooner rather than later, the way things are going. 11:45 right now, and I want to do this piece again. We've done this before, from John Stossel. And again, something the left will not listen to, even though it contains scientists. But all the leftists have to be told is, well, a majority of scientists say we're in trouble. That's all. They don't even need proof. They don't need to look the scientists up or quote them or any of their claims. Because just by being told, oh, science says, they echo it. Scientists say, a majority of scientists say, global warming is killing us. So there. Okay. Well, at least I've got voices. I've got proof. Real scientists. And no, they don't all agree. They do not all agree. How can you deny that life is getting better? People are living longer. How can you deny that 1922 saw something very, very similar to what is going on exactly almost to the year 100 years later? And the conditions then were even worse than they are now in the 1930s as far as outrageous weather is concerned. But now suddenly, because AOC says it so, now it's man-made CO2 emissions. So we have to stop cows from farting. We have to stop eating meat. Oh, it's a dream. It's a dream. It's a utopian dream they're having. And it's all based on a lie. So here is a John Stossel. It was an investigative piece that includes climate scientists eagerly dispelling the myth that the end is near if we don't do away with fossil fuels. Quite the opposite is true. Things are going to continue to get better. Well, Joe Biden is a fly in the ointment along with the rest of the Democrats in Congress. They are a serious fly in the ointment. They could undo. We've got longer life, more longevity. We've got better lifestyles. But we could be sent back to the dark, literally, we could be sent back to the dark ages, as you will hear in this piece. The end is near if we let Biden, Harris, Sanders, AOC, and the other alarmists get away. But if you're smart, you'll listen to people like John Stossel. He put a lot of work into this piece, and here it is.
This environmental catastrophe bearing down on us.
I keep hearing that we're killing the earth.
How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood.
But wait, I've been a consumer reporter for years. I've covered so many scares. Plague, famine, and perpetual war will kill us. We're going to run out of oil. Nuclear power will give us cancer. Killer bees swarm ever closer. Bird flu, flesh-eating bacteria. The list of terrible things that were going to get us is long. And yet we're living longer than ever. None of those scares turned out to be as frightening as the warnings. But I'm told global warming is different.
Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
The alarmists have evidence that supports their fears. Temperature is rising. The UN predicts that it'll rise another 2 to 5 degrees.
What do we do in the land we live on is under attack?
But does that justify the fear?
Climate change is not a lie, so please don't let our planet die.
Does it justify this claim?
We have 12 years to act.
We have 12 years.
We have 12 years before the effects are irreversible.
Really? 12 years?
It's warmed up around 1 degree Celsius since 1900, and life expectancy doubled the industrialized democracies. And yet that temperature ticks up.
Facts.
Another half a degree.
Facts.
And the entire system crashes.
Oh.
That's the most absurd belief.
I recently moderated this debate on climate change at the Heartland Institute. Well, not a debate, because the alarmists who were invited didn't show.
Huh.
Heartland invited many.
Please come over here and sit next to that place and let's have a discussion. There are a lot more people want to hear what you have to say.
Climate alarmists never agree to debate.
We'd love to offer you the airtime. We will give it to you. I'll give you a special phone number that goes to this phone.
I invited Al Gore on my show often, but he would never come.
In order to solve the climate crisis,
he makes a lot of speeches, but won't respond to people who disagree.
Of course not.
It's too bad that the alarmists won't debate, because so much of what they say deserves debate.
Should.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
12 years.
Well, and in 12 years, it'll be 12 more years.
David Legates is a professor of climatology at the University of Delaware. Pat Michaels is former president of the American Association of State Climatologists. Willie Soon is an astrophysicist.
It's all about hand waving. It's about emotion, about sending out kids in protest. We have nothing to do with the science.
This group pointed out that even if the planet warms by 5 degrees, humans can adjust. People in Holland did years ago.
they said, we're going to adapt to the fact that we're a low-lying country, and we're going to build these dikes, and we're going to build these pumps. Are you telling me that the people in Miami are so dumb that they're just going to sit there and drown?
You acknowledge, though, the water is rising.
Yes, water has been rising for approximately 20,000 years and probably will continue.
But we can adapt, like Holland has, except the alarmists say hurricanes and other storms are getting worse.
It's getting stronger and stronger. The winds are getting harder and harder.
No, they aren't. You can take a look at all the hurricanes around the planet. We can see them since 1970 because we got global satellite coverage.
Right.
And we can measure their power, and we can add up their power. And there is no significant increase whatsoever. There is no relationship between hurricane activity
They make stuff up.
and the surface temperature of the planet.
The claim that hurricanes are getting worse and the 12-year deadline were 2 of 4 myths I heard the Heartland panel convincingly debunk. Myth number 3 was that government action today will save us.
We have to act now. The Obama administration's model projects that the amount of global warming that would be saved for going to zero emissions tomorrow. You don't know how to do that. Put you back in the Stone Age, but let's just say we did it. would be 14 hundredths of a degree Celsius.
So no real effect on the climate, but
You'll sure have an impoverished, dark country, won't you?
myth number 4, the idea that carbon dioxide is carbon pollution that just does harm and threatens the food supply.
There are places on Earth where it is just greening up like crazy.
So if you're really concerned about the plants, more carbon dioxide makes them not just grow faster, but also makes them more water efficient.
Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, but it also helps feed the world.
A lot of people pretend to know about climate, pretend to have studied it, pretend to come up with these answers, and then make these proclamations to scare you so that you'll do what we want you to do.
But if what the alarmists say is not true, why would the International Panel on Climate Change, the United Nations, go along with the exaggerations?
Governments like control. Most governments want to keep control, and most governments get bigger and bigger over time.
IPCC does stand for Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
Carbon dioxide becomes that molecule by which we can take control of your lives, of your efforts, and everything that goes on.
Are they right? It's confusing when there are so many serious people who are so worried. I wish there were a real debate. Why won't the other side debate?
Because they couldn't hold up. They won't debate. They talk, they yell, they shout, they run. They will not debate. You will take what I say as truth and you will be happy with it. You will take the edicts we lay down to battle this non-existent fury that is climate change, and you will be happy with it. Just know that we are saving your pathetic lives. And they believe it. Okay, if you're doing it for our own good, if you're doing it for me, if you're doing it for my feelings, then I guess I'm okay with it because you care about me. That's about as far from the truth as you can get. Thank you very much for joining me today. Mike Violet is here tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock with more common sense talk. And by the way, we welcome people with a differing opinion on the show. We always do. But if you're just going to call names and then leave, then save your ignorance. Save the ignorance. Go someplace else. Go someplace. If you hate it so much, why were you here commenting? Maybe you're actually looking for some good news because the left is giving you no good news. It's all doom and gloom. It's all racism, xenophobia, homophobia, climate change, bad health. For a nation that needs right now to institutionalize healthcare as a human right, we are probably the healthiest society in the world. And people who need care, emergency care, get it. They get it. Because humans help humans. We don't need something that everybody is going to abuse, that is going to drive the cost of health care way up. And our taxes, nobody sees cause and effect. That is one of the biggest problems with the left. They don't see cause and effect, or they are so sold the bill of goods by the left that they think we aren't going to survive if the left doesn't implement all of their desires, all of their wants, all of their control, all of their power, because they know they are superior. They're the superior race, apparently. Hitler was looking for the superior race. Look where that got the Jews. The Democrats want the same thing. They want the same thing. They want control over you and me, and they want to dictate. That's where that word came from. They want to dictate what we can do, what we can drive, what we can say, where we can go, how much we can make. All right. I've used up enough of your time. Thank you Thank you for your ear, and please share, and we'll get the word out. Thank you to Right America Media and American Women Who Bear Arms for having us. And, of course, we're streaming all over the place on VK.com, on YouTube, on Twitter, on USA.life. So find us, share us, and I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Have a great day.
Legacy 1160 WSKW.
What's important here at Moody's is we have a lot of opportunity for upward mobility.
Moody's definitely helped me through. They sent me to school. I got my degree in business. I had the demeanor and I had the willpower and the want.
Our trade is constantly changing and there's always new challenges that arise.
I definitely feel like an owner. It's very exciting.
When you like what you do, you like your job, you like the people you work with, what else could you ask for?
Bring your skills to Moody's and build a long-term future with us.
Townline Antiques wants to know, what are you shopping for today? Searching for furniture to add to your home? Townline Antiques has beautiful pieces of furniture for every room, built to last with quality materials from the past. Thinking of decorating in a classic style? You'll find enchanting home decor, artwork, glass